We are April and Scott, creators of naughtygym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships, and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. Welcome back to the Naughty Gym Show. I'm your host, April, and this is my lovely partner, Scott.
Oh, you didn't have a joke today.
You say that every time I say something sweet every week.
No, but I mean, usually it's like you have some description or something.
I was going to call you the meat mountain himself, but...
that one needs maybe some work.
Yeah, I need to finesse that one a little bit. So we've got a great topic we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that, we have been incredibly busy. The whole month, well, since we got back from Jamaica in January, we have been traveling almost every single weekend. And we leave tonight to go to San Diego to see our son who is in the Navy out in Coronado.
So we've been in Houston one weekend, then last weekend, St. Petersburg with some friends, had a great time there, and then we're going to San Diego, which neither of us have ever been to, I don't think, right?
I've been once for my brother's wedding. It was like 1997. So yeah, I don't know that counts. And we will be in Jamaica. What month is it? February, March 8th through April 5th.
4 straight weeks.
4 weeks. We'll be filling in there, doing some fitness classes while Marsha Lynn, the gym manager,
fitness director,
is on maternity leave. So we're going to fill in. We're going to do some classes during Hedo Swing Breakers X, Hedo Swing Breakers Week. Then the third week is a few groups are going to be there, like Char Travel. And then our Casual Swingers Week with Mickey and Mallory from the Casual Swingers.
Yeah, so we're super excited that the resort thinks enough of us to let us try to fill in for Marsha Lynn.
But we'll be offering classes every single day, well, Monday through Friday, and a few different classes than they're typically used to offering at the Hedo Gym. But we'll be doing some outside adventure trips, some kayaking, paddleboard, yoga, body pump, ab classes, all kinds of stuff. But first, we have a couple of new events on our calendar for 2025. We are both going to be doing retreats. So I'm going to be hosting, along with Catherine from Expansive Connection, a women's in menopause retreat called Wild and Wise. And it's November 13th through the 16th. We're bringing in a doctor who is a specialist in hormones, women's hormones, and another speaker who's going to talk to us about coming into ourselves as we're going through this transition to feel your best sexually and physically. Then Catherine's going to be doing some workshops. I'm going to be doing some workshops on how to exercise and eat as your body changes. And we're just going to bond with other women. This is a sex positive space. So you don't have to be in the lifestyle or non-monogamous. You could be any realm of sex positivity, straight, lesbian, whatever that looks like for you. This is, it's not a lifestyle event. Like if you want to play, we're just asking that you be respectful of shared spaces and just, you do you. But it's not something that we're actively going to facilitate. We'll have some fun activities planned and good food and stuff like that. But it's going to be a fantastic time. And that is live right now on our website. So this is going to be open to 28 to 30 women. And it's in the Smoky Mountains, November 13th through the 16th. And then yours.
Yep, ours is the same week, different cabin, of course. A more of a man cave type cabin, I guess. But yeah, ours is a men's only retreat. I'm really excited about doing this because as I was talking in our community live last night, I used to have a big circle of guy friends here in my hometown. but this was an old me and a different version of myself, where I used to have a lot of friends at church or the tennis community and things like that. And then all of the things about us came out, and I lost all but one of those friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I miss that. And I miss that bonding I get, being with other guys from time to time. And this is and probably a lot of you, if you're in the lifestyle, have a similar experience. Either you don't have a lot of friends because they know about your lifestyle, or you do have a lot of friends because they don't know about your lifestyle, and you can't be yourself.
Or even if you have lifestyle friends, they live all over the world. So you don't get a lot of time to just hang out guy and guy, the guys together, the girls together.
Yeah. So ours is going to have, we're not going to have a counselor or therapist there. It's going to be us just talking about some issues. We'll probably spend an hour to 90 minutes each day going through some exercises of things like that. And then the rest of the time, we're going to spend it hiking, playing poker. There's an indoor basketball court at the gym. They have a brand new pickleball court built at the cabin. And I'm going to be teaching people how to play pickleball. If you have an interest in that, we can play. There's hot tubs and pools.
Duck pin bowling lanes.
Yeah, there's duck pin bowling lanes.
It really is an adult playground, this cabin.
So we're going to have steak dinners and spaghetti and eat huge breakfasts and all the kind of fun stuff. So
yeah, we do have some couples already that will be traveling together, but the female is going to come with us, and the husband is going to go with, or partner is going to go to the men's retreat.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
If you want to go to the women's and your husband doesn't want to come to the men, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
The guys' cabin can hold 20 men. I have no idea how many.
You've pre-booked a couple of those already.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people, or had some people pre-book already, and we haven't even announced it.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, either go to our website and schedule a Zoom with us. You can just look for the trip on there.
Yeah. The women, you don't have to schedule a Zoom. That's an optional feature. If you want to schedule a Zoom, you can, but you can reserve your room right on the website.
Yeah, the guys, we're going to Zoom. So, and again, when we ask you to Zoom, it's not like some tryout, like we're looking for particular things or anything. We just want to make sure that you understand this isn't some sex party. We're not bringing women in, and this event meets your expectations and stuff like that. So just be a quick 10, 15-minute Zoom call. And if you're interested, then you're in.
Yeah. All right. So now on to today's topic, DTF, down to fuck.
And this is a topic we've wanted to talk about for a while, and we just have kept skipping it and putting other things in its place.
Mm-hmm.
But we sent out messages on our social media platforms in our private community yesterday or the day before, asking people to define what they felt like DTF meant. Because one of the things we've noticed in the lifestyle is that almost everybody's heard of that term, that abbreviation. But when they label somebody as DTF, a lot of times we know the people they're labeling as DTF, and those people don't identify themselves as DTF.
Right. And it has a very negative connotation, like, oh, they're DTF, or, we've heard some very disparaging remarks in regards to somebody calling somebody else DTF. And I don't think that it is a negative thing to identify as DTF.
Yeah, and it should,
unless that's your definition is meant to be.
Yeah, it should. You hear that phrase, you never yuck somebody's yum. If somebody loves being a DTF couple, more power to them. I wish we were more like that at times.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have this negative connotation, and it reminds me of growing up in church, and I mentioned this in our live last night, that it tends to be a label that we ascribe to other people, and not nearly as many people adopt the label themselves as there are people being called DTF, because it does have this negative connotation. And in church, we used to think we were the right type of church.
Right, the only ones going to
and
heaven.
Anybody to the right of us or more conservative than us was fine. They might be a little extreme, but at least they're more conservative than us. Conservativity was the badge of honor.
Right.
Anybody to the left of us, even if they were barely to the left of us, we viewed as liberal.
Right.
We were in the sweet spot.
And they better use caution.
And so, and every church seemed to be that way. Anybody just to the left of them was considered liberal. So it didn't really have liberal didn't have a good definition. It just meant, are you not as conservative as me? So you're liberal. sometimes DTF gets used that way, like you fuck more people than me, therefore you're DTF, or you don't need as much of a connection for me, therefore you're DTF. And that's not fair. And it is used as sort of a slur.
And it is the lifestyle is such a broad spectrum. I think we mentioned last night on our live, you and I have recently had a conversation, and neither one of us really like the word evolve when we're talking about a relationship, because we feel like that implies that there's an end goal, like a finish line that you're moving towards. And there's not. And I really struggle with labels in our relationship. Because, if somebody says, are you full swap or soft swap? Well, I don't know what I am today or with you. I take that on a case by case basis. So while I do love the really deep connection that probably teeters more along the lines of poly, I also know that it has happened in the past that I have made a spark or a instant chemistry with somebody where I felt such a strong sexual attraction that I was like, let's do this, which would be called DTF.
We think most
right,
people would.
But I don't identify as either.
Yeah. Well, so we're gonna try to maybe not give it a firm definition today, but we're gonna try and highlight what we think are the most common characteristics of people who other people call DTF.
Yeah.
Right. When we asked for those definitions from our community and from social media, we got a bunch, and they were all different. Although they had some commonalities,
mm-hmm.
they were very different around the edges. And so we've realized that not everybody uses this word the same way, even though if we just think about it superficially, we think everybody's saying the same thing, till we really get down to trying to define exactly what it means. And then we realize we're all using it a little bit differently.
Right. And our goal is not to call anybody out or make anybody feel a certain way, but it's more to just open that conversation and I guess normalize that it's not a negative thing. We're not judging anybody. You shouldn't be judging anybody. But also, like you said, Scott, a lot of times if you and I get into a disagreement, typically it's about the definition of a word. I mean, we went around and around about the word flirt when you said, I'm just flirting. And I'm like, well, what is flirting to you? That took us months to figure out.
Months.
Just the other day, we had a disagreement about what the word obligation means. If I say I'm obligated to someone, and you look these words up online, and there's so many different definitions depending on what the culture you grew up in and the society, kind of how society uses those words. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the DTF, is just exploring the different uses, the different ways people use that, and what our interpretation is of that.
Yeah, so we're not going to give you what we think the definition of DTF should be, because there's no such thing. There's no what it should be.
Right.
Words are defined based off their common usage in a society. That's why the definition of words change over time. We talked about this in the live last night. The word gay used to mean something entirely different than how it's most commonly used today.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try to do today, instead of giving a definition, is just list out some of the characteristics that we have seen from our perspective at the events we go to, the people we hang out with, what we think most people mean when they're identifying somebody as DTF. You're likely to disagree with us. You're almost certain to disagree with us on something, maybe completely disagree with us about everything. And that's fine. We may not be right, and we'd love to hear from you either in the comments of YouTube or just send us an email or a message and tell us why you think we're wrong about this. But we'll start to run through this now and try to lay out the framework. Again, we're not trying to define it. There is no right definition. If you think you know the definition and yours is the right definition, then you don't understand how definitions work. But we're going to do the best we can to try to show how we think people tend to use this word. All right. So what we have are 7 characteristics that you and I seem to have a loose agreement on as to what does or does not qualify somebody in other people's eyes as DTF. Okay. We're going to read the DTF version of a characteristic, and then the what we call relational swinger version. Somebody who would be we kind of view this as a spectrum, right? On one end, you've got somebody who would be purely DTF in anybody's eyes. That would be somebody who doesn't even need to see a person. You just bring somebody in of the gender they're attracted to, no matter what they look like, no matter whether there's any spark or connection, they would have sex with. I've never met anybody like that. Everybody that I've met that claims they're DTF has at least some standards, and usually will say, I need some kind of spark or connection, but I've never met that pure DTF person.
Right.
On the other end, you've got the pure relational person that wouldn't and couldn't have sex with somebody until they know every single thing about them, including their family, their pet's name, and what their favorite Avenger is.
Right.
I mean, they got to know it all.
Right.
Got to have days of connection. That might be on the other end of the spectrum for a relational swinger. And we're going to try to compare and contrast these two.
Yeah.
All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and real quick, I just want to say one of our Naughty Gym members last night on the live said, even the most DTFers have qualifiers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you're an anomaly out there where you'll just put it in anything or take whatever, shoot us a message, because we've never encountered one. At any event we've ever been to, we've never met somebody who said, yeah, I don't care what they look like, who they are. I will fuck anyone, anywhere, anytime. But
we have heard a lot of people call other people DTFers.
Right.
So there's a lot of people out there being ascribed that designator who probably don't adopt it for themselves.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do is find.
Well, and we've been guilty of that.
What?
Of ascribing that definition to somebody that was more on that end of the spectrum than we were.
More
saying, they are DTF.
Oh, right. Well, there are a handful of people who I can think of off the top of my head who not only I would call them DTF, but I would think they were the poster children for DTF, who do not believe they're DTF.
Right.
All right. So again, we're not this show is not about correctly identifying who is and who is not DTF. We're just trying to identify the most common characteristics we think that the biggest bulk of people ascribe to somebody that they call DTF.
Right.
All right. All right. First, if you are a DTF person, you probably strongly identify with this statement. The lifestyle is primarily about sex. In fact, if you're strong DTF, you may think, well, of course, the lifestyle is about sex or primarily about sex. What else could it be about? That may even be baffling to you that somebody would think it could mean otherwise.
Yeah.
All right. If you're more of a relational swinger, you probably more strongly identify with the statement, the lifestyle isn't primarily about sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we can go to war about that. But in all honesty, it's probably what it means to you. Right. There is no fixed definition of what the lifestyle is all about. It's kind of a vague statement.
And 10 years ago, I would have said it's all about sex.
And was for you.
And was. And now, sitting here today, I could take it or leave it. But I want to have quality, good relationships and friendships more than I want to have sex.
And you would have said 10 years ago that it's primarily about sex. And if you said for you, then it would have been correct then.
Right.
Just as it's correct now to say it's not primarily about sex for you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This is just the way, this is kind of highlighting the mindset that people who tend to get described as DTF usually adopt. Right. We think. Okay. Number 2, you are likely somebody others would call DTF if you feel a high degree of excitement about the expectation of playing with someone when going to a lifestyle event.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which I think I've probably done that part more than you.
Right. Yeah.
But not as much as you think I have. All right. Number 2, the opposite of that, or
relational.
The relational swinger probably feels a high degree of excitement about the expectation of meeting and having conversations with lots of new people when going to lifestyle events.
Yeah.
Both are excited about going to the event. One tends to be a little more excited about one aspect than the other.
Right.
And the DTFer is usually somebody who's thinking primarily about the excitement of having sex.
Well, and again, why this is not a negative thing. If we were kind of in a position like this when we first started, we had children at home. So I can understand parents who maybe only get to go to 1 or 2 lifestyle events a year. Now they've got daycare, they've bought a new outfit, they've got some time off, they've spent money on a hotel room or whatever it is. And now they're going, I really hope I get laid this weekend, or we, meet somebody and there's chemistry and we can play, because you don't get the opportunity to. That's not a negative thing.
No, I agree. Yeah. And you can certainly understand. And we've been in that. And we're fortunate now that we get to go to so many things that we don't usually, I don't guess that we would ever feel that kind of pressure anymore, but we have experienced that kind of thing. Because when we, in our first 3 years, we went like twice a year.
Right. If that.
All right. Number 3, you may be DTF, or you may be described as DTF by others if a new play partner eventually, if you think this way, a new play partner eventually becomes a friend, for you, that's just icing on the cake. So if it's a play partner and they end up becoming a friend, well, that's just icing on the cake. A relational swinger, if a new friendship is made at a party and play eventually happens, the play is just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So again, we're focusing on what the real desire or the most important desire is for the different people. For some people it's play, for some people it's relationship, but for most of us, it's somewhere in between. Right?
And that's why we've met people. In fact, when we started the lifestyle, we said we don't want any friends. We've got friends. We don't need friends. But we've met so many people who have to keep their lifestyle life so separate from their regular everyday life, because it could disrupt it in such a huge way. If their family found out, their employee, or their employers or employees found out, if their children found out. And so they're not looking for friends, because they don't want to introduce anyone from the lifestyle into their regular everyday life. They are only going to look for casual hookups.
Yeah. All right. Number 4, a DTF person would typically feel some, and maybe a lot, of disappointment if a party ended without play. A relational swinger would typically feel some, maybe a lot, of disappointment if a party ended without making a new friend. Mm-hmm. Again, just a different mindset. And the further you are on either of these spectrum, the more confusing the other person's viewpoint probably is. If you are really just about going in there and having lighthearted, fun sex hookups, or if you are really into just going and making really close friends, and sex could be 8 more visits away, those two ends of the spectrum have a hard time seeing each other and understanding each other.
Well, and with this, is this number 3 or 4?
That was 4.
This one, something I hadn't thought about was, so this was a little bit of an issue for you and I in our conversation and understanding going into an event, because I always thought that you were going in with expectations to play, and that if we didn't, you would be disappointed. And so we had so many conversations around that, because you weren't going with expectations necessarily, but some men do, and that will put pressure on the woman to, okay, I got to make this happen, or he's going to be disappointed. In fact, we actually have had a couple tell us he goes in with expectations and is disappointed if he doesn't get to play.
Right.
And his wife or partner said she felt that weight of that expectation, but also the weight of that disappointment.
Right.
And that can be a really tricky place to be if you're not in the same place as a couple, where one is maybe more DTF, going in with expectations, and one isn't. That can, I think, cause some issues if it's not communicated.
I'm sure. Yeah. And in fact, there a lot of people are that way. In fact, in some sense, I think all couples are at least a little that way. There's almost never complete
unbalanced.
Yeah. There's always like, you want something at least slightly different than
that. Sure.
And yeah, you're right. I didn't ever really find myself going into an event expecting to play and planning on, and end up disappointed if we didn't. What I would always hope for is that I would meet somebody that we had such a great connection with and chemistry that we would want to play, and might feel some disappointment if we went 2 or 3 events in a row and just didn't find that.
Right. Or you would say, are we even a lifestyle?
All right. Number 5. If you're DTF if people are typically just labeling you DTF, you likely play at most events. The more DTF, the more likely you are to play with every day at an event, or even multiple times in a day in an event. Right. So if you go,
which we have done.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. Hey, more power to you. Play all you want. I don't know if maybe I'm too old to ever even have that desire anymore, but we do a 3-hour play session some night. I got to do some real rallying to be ready to go the next day. And some people are ready to go by breakfast the next morning. But if you are playing very, very frequently and usually at every event, you are very likely
with new people.
With new people, especially, you are definitely going to be defined by others as DTF. You may not like the label, and maybe it's not accurate. I don't know, because we don't know the definition of DTF, but we're just telling you how people tend to use that phrase.
Yeah.
All right. So likely plays at most events and may play every day or multiple
What's
times.
funny is I already know the messages we're going to get just from that comment that you said. We don't know the definition of DTF. Well, we're going to get people who are absolutely 100% sure they know the definition of DTF.
Yeah. And by the way, please, if you're going to tell us the definition and you're going to act like it's some sort of official definition, please cite your sources other than just your opinion, because you don't get to make up the definition. All right. So number 5, the opposite of that one, of playing at every event. If you're a relational swinger, you likely make new friends at most events. The more relational you are, the more likely you are to have made several new friends, maybe even some you have made concrete plans to see again. That tends to be the way more relational swingers go into an event, is looking to make friends. All right. Number 6, if you're a DTFer, you tend to start working the crowd immediately when you go into an event, looking to engage in conversation to find possible play partners. We think that tends to be the mental headspace most DTFers are in. And by the way, that's just us making that shit up. I don't know what goes on in your head. Can't be in there. That's just conversations we've had. All right. A more relational swinger tends to start working the crowd immediately, looking to engage in conversations to get to know people. Now, that's not saying that if you're looking to play, you don't care about getting to know people at all. It's not what we're saying. We're just saying where your focus tends to be.
Right.
For some people, it's trying to spark that connection real quick and get to the playroom. For others, it's trying to make new friends.
Right. Well, and we have been in this long enough where we can sense that we can pick up the nuances in the conversations when somebody is genuinely trying to get to know us as a person or trying to see how quickly they can get us into a playroom.
It is instantaneous, noticeable, and you can feel it.
Yeah. There's a difference. The energy's different. The questions are different. And we don't enjoy those superficial conversations.
And I think we're going to sound like, since we don't think of ourselves as DTF, we tend to think we're much slower.
I'm DTF sometimes.
Well, it's just been a while.
Well, yeah. But I'm not
opposed. Well, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it either. It just tends to not happen for us.
Yeah.
All right, number 7, last one. A DTF person, if someone at an event asks you to play, there's a higher likelihood you'd say yes than no. All right. If you're a relational swinger and somebody at an event asks you to play, there's a higher likelihood you'd say no than yes.
There's so many factors.
Yeah, there's a million factors in this, but we're just talking about in the aggregate. We're not, yes, there's exceptions.
A new person that you've just met.
Yeah, well, we're just talking about in general. Anybody at a party asks you, you're more likely to say yes or no, depending on whether you're a DTF or not. Now, yes, there's a million exceptions to that. There's a lot of ways that we could think of that somebody could just ask us to play and we'd say yes. It hadn't happened in a while because we usually need that connection. Mm-hmm. But yes, we can come up with scenarios where that. But I'm just saying, if you have more of that DTF personality, or you're more likely to be described as DTF by others, our guess is that you're more likely to say yes than no to any play opportunity presented to you. Not all, just more likely to say yes than not.
Yeah.
So those are our 7 characteristics. If you disagree, we'd love to hear from you. But we think those are the things most people are the types of things that seem to be the commonality between the people labeled as DTF. one of the things we always assumed, and we talked about this at the start, was that DTF people are you would definitely call somebody DTF if they said they didn't need any kind of connection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just not sure we've met any of those. Just purely need no connection or no conversation whatsoever.
Well, and we've used the word connection differently.
Yeah.
So now we use connection versus chemistry or spark, right? So I can meet somebody new and immediately we have this spark or this sexual chemistry. And, we both get really worked up and are ready to take it to the playroom. That I would consider DTF. Connection, what we're talking about, is more of an emotional, like, I want to be friends with this person. We have similar life views. I want to hang out with them outside of lifestyle activities. That's what we're talking about when we say connection.
Well, and I think this is where some of the time people that others call DTF that don't adopt the label for themselves, this is where the hang up is likely happening, is this definition of connection. Because I've had people tell me, no, we're definitely not DTF. We have to have a connection. And then I see them meet somebody and 30 minutes later, they're going to the playroom. And I have asked people in situations like that, well, that seemed like awful quick to form. Yeah, all it took was 30 minutes. And we
you're not saying that judgy, like.
No, I'm not saying it judgy.
It's awful quick. Or
great, good for you. You close the deal, and we have talked about that before. Well, is it just that it takes us longer than most people to make a connection, and that those people really are making a connection in that quick a time? But I've always felt like that, even though we are saying the words connection, that what we're talking about when we say connection is of something fundamentally different than what people who make that connection in 30 minutes or an hour and a half at a party are talking about.
Well, and we've found for us, so I've said before, in my early 20s, I was definitely DTF. I didn't want to know them. Some of them didn't even know their names. Now, at this point in my life, we have both found that having longer and deeper connections with people leads to more fulfilling and more satisfying sex for us.
For us.
Right.
And then we recognize that that's not the case for everybody, right. and that's great. So what we did is we went to the brilliant ChatGPT. And after a whole bunch of different prompts, we were asking it to sort of assimilate and give us some working explanation about the differences between deeper connections and more short-term or quicker connections. And we think it came up with some really great info. And it cited its sources on this. It used research papers and things. But it does, as April said, it differentiates between connection and spark. And this is, when we say connection, we're talking about the connection that we're about to read. And when we see people, or even us, having that chemistry right away, we're going to now start calling it a spark or chemistry. Right. And this, what we're going to work through right here, is going to kind of define what those differences are. All right, relationship connection is about emotional, intellectual, or physical bonding that develops over time. It's deeper and more stable than a spark.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it's not that one is a light connection and the other. It's more that there's a real tangible difference between these things. It's not just a matter of degree. There's a difference.
Right.
That kind of connection is built on shared values, experiences, and mutual understanding. And those things all take time. You can't have shared values, experiences, and mutual understandings in a one-night party, I don't think, or certainly not very much of one.
Yeah.
Those kinds of connections grow stronger over time through communication, trust, and effort. They exist in friendships, romantic relationships, or even business, professional relationships. And it doesn't necessarily, though it can, include romantic or sexual attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is the type of connection we're talking about. We prefer.
Right.
Now,
well, like somebody on the live last night said, they make connections everywhere, standing in the grocery store line, going to the doctor's office, waiting in the waiting room. I do too. I like to sit in the front seat of an Uber and connect with the Uber driver. I like to find out about their life, what they do, where they're from, but I'm not looking. Well, I mean, you just never know if I would
depends on what that Uber driver looks like.
But there's different levels of connection when we're talking about connection too, right?
Well, maybe, but I'm not sure that I don't think you have like a 30-minute connection and a 4 hour. This is talking about this type of connection is things that are built over time and can't be built short term.
Okay. So in just a few hours.
Yeah.
So those connections that you're making in just your everyday life, I mean, what are you calling those? Like
Well,
if I go to the grocery store and strike up conversations with the people in line behind me.
Well, that may be some type of connection. I don't know. But it certainly isn't, like it says here, for an example, a relationship connection, you feel comfortable and understood around somebody. You can talk for hours and you share similar life views.
Okay.
So
that could be the part of the beginning of a possible connection.
Yeah, there could be a spark in the grocery. Maybe it's just a spark.
Yeah.
And maybe it's sexual in the grocery store. Or maybe it's just, a little spark of potential friendship if you were to ever run into each other again. But it's certainly not built off any prior history
or substance
or any real substance.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
And this is how the research talks about their relationship spark. And this is more the short-term thing. A spark is the immediate chemistry, excitement, or attraction that makes a relationship feel electrifying in the early stages. And we've all felt that. That's one of the coolest things about the lifestyle.
The NRE.
Yeah, because you tend to lose that. It gradually fades out of your primary relationship and you get little boosts of it at these lifestyles. It's often based on physical attraction, flirtation, and mystery. It can feel intense, but it may fade over time if not backed by a deeper connection. And I think we tend to see that in most marriages. It may be mistaken for love, but it's more about infatuation or lust. And it can exist without a strong or emotional connection.
Yeah.
All right. Because we can be really attracted to somebody. Sometimes even if we don't jive with them that much.
Right.
Now, for some people, the jiving, the intellectual connection is necessary part of the attraction too, but not necessarily. I mean, if Scarlett Johansson drops in here and acts like an asshole in my living room, I'm still going to want to have sex with her.
I would be mad if you didn't.
Yeah. So those are kind of the differences. And I think that's the way, at least for you and I, we're going to start using the word spark or chemistry for that more immediate, real intense feeling of connection versus this long-term, trusting, deeply bonded sort of connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
How they interact in relationships. And this all sounds fairly familiar, I think. Best case scenario, relationship starts with a spark and develops a deep connection over time. That's the ideal long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Some relationships only have a spark, but they lack real compatibility, making them short-lived.
Yeah.
This could be the majority of your interactions at lifestyle events, especially if you're DTF.
Oh, yeah. That was the majority of my interactions in my early 20s. I was like, I definitely don't want to see this person again.
Right. Yeah,
or know their name.
A real spark, but a lack of compatibility, long-term compatibility. All right. Some relationships have deep connection, but lack the spark. And so that's going to be more of your friendships, things like you have this really deep, trusting connection with a friend, but there's no sexual spark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long-term relationships.
And we've met friends like that in the lifestyle too.
Right, that we don't play with, but we're very good friends with. Yeah. And last one here, long-term relationships often transition from spark to connection, but couples can reignite the spark through intentional effort.
Right.
And again, something we see all the time in the lifestyle. One of the things people love most about this is that it brings another spark back into their primary relationship.
Yeah.
Being DTF, not being DTF, neither's better than the other. It's just, what do you want?
Right.
Where
are you at in your relationship with your partner? What do you have the bandwidth for? What do you enjoy? What makes you feel sexiest and makes you and your partner feel closest to each other? There's no judgment in that. Certainly, I feel like we've just been all the way across the spectrum and back again. And there's no ending place. There's no landing place. It's wherever you are today. Like I said before, am I full swap? I don't know. Maybe today I am. Maybe tomorrow I'm no swap. Maybe, we took a year off to be monogamous. You can be one thing today and tomorrow be something else.
One of the things we see happening is that people want to protect their primary relationship by saying to each other that we're going to try this lifestyle, this non-monogamy thing, but we're not going to let emotions get involved.
Yeah.
And so they try their best to have just casual sex. And they say, we don't let emotions get involved, or we don't catch feelings, or any of that kind of stuff, almost as a little white lie that you tell each other in order to continue to feel safe. But when in reality, I think it's important that we all accept that you cannot have sex. I'll say with 99.9% certainty, you can't have sex with another individual without emotions being involved.
Right. Like joy, excitement,
fun, all of those things are emotions.
Right.
And if you say I don't have emotions, then you're saying I don't have any joy or excitement or fun when I'm having sex. And that makes no sense.
Or frustration or fear or anything else that can come along.
All of those, everybody that's ever been in non-monogamy has experienced emotions when they're good and bad, when they're having sex with other people. You do let emotions get involved. Now, what a lot of people do is try to say that it's just casual for us in order to protect themselves. But I think what they really mean is we don't let deep emotions get involved.
Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's scary. And I did that. I was probably more guilty of it than you are because you're a lot more free-spirited than I am. But I'm guilty of saying that early on in our relationship because I was afraid I would lose you to somebody else. You would love somebody more than you loved me or feel for someone differently than you felt about me. And that was a scary thing until I felt secure enough in our relationship and our love for each other. But once we opened that up to more of a relational type swinging, we have some really deep relationships with other people outside of our marriage. And there's not been any threat to us. In fact, it's just made us stronger. But once I got a taste of that, I was like, I don't know that I need anything else. Just to be able to love people so freely has been such a bonus to our relationship.
Yeah. And I just think it's important that we speak candidly with our partner and say, yeah, I had fun. That guy was great. It was exciting. So there were emotions involved. And if you're more of that DTF person, then you probably would leave it there. It's sort of this free-spirited, lighthearted, recreational fun for you. And maybe that's more of a DTF mindset.
And that's okay.
But that's okay. Don't worry if somebody calls you that. It's not a negative thing, even if they use it.
Still urge you to have those conversations. One of the things that you and I used to do, well, we still do, we ask questions like, so if we have had an encounter, well, how did you feel about that? What would you do if you started to feel love for this person? Or what would you do if I started to, fall in love with someone or love somebody in a different way? Or we ask these like troubleshooting questions of these hypothetical situations. And then we talk through them like in great lengths. And, well, why do you feel like that? Well, why does that upset you? I mean, there's times where I'm like, I need to stop having this conversation right now because there's something going on and it feels really bad to me. So let's shelf it and talk about it another time. But those have been so good for both of us to grow together in our relationship and really figure out like, what is it that I'm afraid of?
Yeah, well, we want to encourage everybody to stop using that terminology, DTF, as an insult or a slur. It shouldn't be. Somebody's actions may be things
we should come up with a better name for it.
Yeah. Maybe lighthearted swingers. I don't know.
Lighthearted.
But that's not a good one. But it's just not a good thing for us to be out there disparaging people because of their lifestyle choices. There's going to be a lot of reasons for it, and their reasons make very good sense to them, even if it doesn't to you.
And it's really none of your business.
And it's none of your business, except I think you owe it to your fellow lifestyle people to be encouraging of whatever they choose to do, as long as there's nothing obviously unethical or harming of other people.
Yeah.
We do want to point out a couple before we end here, some misconceptions that we think are the primary misconception of both sides. But one that we hear about DTF people is some people that use a more extreme definition will just accuse people of they're just DTF. They don't have any standards. They'll fuck anybody for any reason. And again, we've never really met that person.
Right.
We've met some people that I'd say are pretty close to that. But even then, if you dig in, you're going to find they have some. Yeah. What'd you call it? The qualifications is what she called it?
Qualifiers. Yeah. Well, and I think, we have just straight up asked couples, this is what we've heard. Is this true? Or how do you define yourself? I mean, respectfully, because we are fascinated by the human race and what makes people do things the way they do things. And it's never a judgment thing. It's in our friends and people that we talk to know that it's just us genuinely curious. We're curious people and we want to find out what makes people tick and why they do things that they do. And typically when you ask questions, you're going to find out it's not what you thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times DTF people are not only accused of not having standards, but they're accused of not really caring about people, a lot of real negative stuff, because sometimes when we're not a DTF, when we're not a certain way, we sort of demonize the other person's position. But I think for most of the people that I've talked to that do consider themselves more DTF, they take a more lighthearted, free-spirited approach to sex in general. Mm-hmm. It's not perhaps is meaningful for them, at least with their play partners, by design. They just kind of want to jump in there, have fun, and it not mean a lot in the long run, but it may mean a lot to them right there in the moment. Yeah. Misconception maybe about relational swingers is that they're just too slow to play, or they're boring, or they're too scared to pull the trigger. There's a lot of work to getting in their pants, so to speak.
A lot of work.
and that is true, but it's not because typically that they think they're deserving of only the best or anything like that. It's just the thrill of the quick hit, so to speak. I just met somebody, let's go have sex. I know for a lot of people that don't identify with DTF, they tend to say that sort of wore off kind of quickly for them, and now they can take that or leave it, but they really prefer these more deep connected because they're just a better experience for them. Mm-hmm. It's not about being slow or super picky or anything like that. It's just about, look, I don't care unless it's going to be the way I want it to be. And so I'll just say no until I find the right opportunity. So I don't know. Is that a good description?
Yeah.
At least of us. Last thing we'll close out with. I didn't show you this. These are kind of surprise questions. All right. I hope I worded them right. April, from time to time, I think you've already actually answered this one in the podcast, but I'll let you say it again. Could you from time to time enjoy a more DTF style experience?
Oh, absolutely. One comes to mind. We were having a meet and greet here locally, and that guy that I met at the bar that I ignored you for like 30 minutes, 100% I could have just taken him to the bathroom. And it's very rare for me to feel chemistry like that.
And that was chemistry. Yeah, like you say, 30, more like 40.
Oh, yeah. I was totally enamored with him. Don't even remember his name. Didn't need to. I wouldn't have even probably asked him again that night. I would have just been like, that guy, I don't remember his name.
You said he's, to this day, still the best looking guy you've ever seen in person.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And he didn't live in town. So I'm like, oh, this would be perfect. Just hit it and quit it. I wouldn't have to talk to him in the morning.
And now, under our current arrangement, that might actually would have happened, or at least I think that thought of, all right, I'm going to make this happen right now, would have been running through your head.
Probably. Yeah.
All right. If you did have a more DTF experience, would you imagine it being more successful as a solo thing with just you and the other person, or together with me?
Probably solo. Right. And the reason is, well, first of all, it would have to be a 4-way connection for me to be a DTF as a couple. Right. I would have to be confident and comfortable that the other wife was okay and you were attracted to her and vice versa. And I don't foresee that happening
Yeah.
as a couple. It just is too many moving parts for me, it doesn't allow me to shut off my brain.
Okay.
And what about you?
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, I would agree that I think it would be more likely to be successful for me one-on-one.
Yeah.
And, that's just always been an issue for us. I think we both want to have our experience be exactly the way we want it to be, and always being concerned for our partner and or either of the other two people or six people or whatever's in the room is just more mental gymnastics than we care to involve.
Well, even when we have
for us
a four-way connection, it's still incredibly difficult for me to turn off my brain. I'm still, and maybe those are like trauma things, but I'm so afraid to hurt anybody or to, not be taking care of other people. And so it's just a rare thing.
Well, if it was going to be solo, what type of guy or girl would it take? Well, maybe you just answered that.
Guy that was at the bar that night.
You
I
think
have no idea.
For you, it's really about just hyper instant attraction.
It wasn't. It wasn't just the physical attraction. It was the way he engaged with me. He was incredibly charismatic. He was very attentive. There was women all over the bar, and he was focused on our conversation.
Do you think from time to time I would enjoy more of a DTF experience?
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah, that's easy for me to answer. Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Okay. If so, do you imagine me being more successful or me enjoying it more as a solo thing or together with you?
Solo.
Okay. I would agree with that. I'm not. Yeah. What type of guy or girl would it take for me?
It would be anybody who shows you attention.
I knew you were going to say that. Not true.
I know you so well. Yes, you are. You have said before, I'm attracted to anyone who shows me attention.
I have never said that.
Oh, I am Scott Gregory Shirley.
Not anybody, but I am saying that is one of my biggest turns.
Yeah, if somebody shows you attention and is doting on you,
that increases the chances that I'm.
Hard.
No, it's not.
A little affirmation, and he'll be eating out of your hand.
Give me a couple of compliments. Tell me my hair looks good.
Anything.
And that's not true.
Well, what's your answer to that then?
God, I didn't expect you to turn that around. There's obviously going to have to be a physical attraction. I don't want to, especially, God bless, this is hard.
But what comes first? The physical attraction or the attraction to somebody paying you attention?
The physical attraction. I mean, unless I just don't see them when they walk up behind me or something. But I mean, I think you see them first.
So but you've been not physically attracted to people, but they've been doting on you and you're like, oh yeah, I think I really am attracted to her.
Yeah, I'm not saying the physical attraction can't change. I'm just saying that the first thing I notice about somebody obviously is their looks. Right. I don't know how else it could be, really. Unless you go on that show where they don't let you see each other.
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. I don't know. I know that if I'm wanting to go out on a separate date for a DTF type experience, I'm not sure if that qualifies as DTF. I guess it does, but there's also going to have to be an intellectual interest.
Right.
I don't know if charisma is everybody loves charisma, but I think for me, there has to be I have to find them intellectually interesting.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I think for a connection you do, but not for a DTF. I know you too well.
No, I thought you were asking what optimal situation.
No, we're not talking about optimal. We're talking about DTF.
Well, I'm describing my optimal DTF experience.
Your optimal DTF is a relational experience. That's not DTF. Your optimal DTF is what? Going out and having an 8-hour-long conversation.
No, I'm not saying 8 hours, but I mean, I think if
you're finding an intellectual,
I get your point. It's hard to find that kind of stuff out in a very quick hitter sort of way. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I think there just got to be an overwhelming attraction that I really have only had, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 times in a lifestyle. So,
well, and that is that guy at the bar, he had charisma. Probably had I gotten to know him better, we would have had it, because I think I'm a sapiosexual as well. I would have had more of an intellectual connection with him, but that's not the first thing that creates a spark. And if we're saying that DTF typically only needs a spark or that chemistry, then, I mean, are you really finding an intellectual chemistry?
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
a quick pickup game of chess.
Yeah. We play speed chess for like 5 minutes, and I know, all right, this one will do. Not true. All right. Well, again, if you're interested in going on either of our men's or women's retreat, they're going to be spectacularly fun, and you get to bond with and learn some things about yourself. And we really think this is going to be a great.
It's a short 3 nights, 4 days. November 13th through the 16th. Go to our website, click on events, and you can find information and the ways to book each one of those retreats.
All right. Well, I have enjoyed this. And again, we didn't define DTF or tell you what it should be. We only defined what we think other people see when they talk about DTF.
That's right.
So don't send us hate mail.
But we would love to hear your opinion. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and leave us a comment. And then you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. We also love to hear your feedback. So if you want to shoot us a message, naughtygymonline@gmail.com. And remember to never stop playing.